I put a video out recently about my personal retirement budget, and I am overwhelmed by the response of that video. I have received a bunch of comments. I've tried to answer every single one of them as best as I could. I think I got most of them. And I'm just really appreciative of all of you that have subscribed to the channel, who are part of this community that I'm trying to build here, and who watched my budgeting video. In this video, what I wanted to do is I wanted to address some of those comments, okay? And I wanted to also answer some questions in a video. I know there's a lot of comments in that budgeting video, and you may not be able to read all of them. So I have selected about 10 or 12 of the pertinent comments that I thought that were important that I wanted to address in this video today. And that's what I want to do. So first off, I want to thank everybody for the many comments in the video. Some of them were eye openers, okay? And some of those I just had to answer questions that you had. That was my first attempt at doing a budget video, and I did the best I could. I may have missed some things, and they're minor. There's nothing major missing from that budget. And maybe be a little more clear about what is in each category. I know in my grocery category, I lumped in all my paper goods and extra things that we buy that are not food related. And, that might make it a little more palatable knowing that all those things are in there too. I don't know how many of you have been to the store lately and checked on prices of things and what have you, but we are probably 30% higher in our grocery bill and paper goods and all that kind of stuff. In fact, all the way across the board, I think all expenses have gone up significantly, okay? Nothing has really stayed low in price. And we're going to go over that in this video tonight. And I'm very appreciative of all those comments that you've left me and shown me the love that you have for this channel. So thank you for being subscribers, and I hope to put out more content and things that you want to hear about. Leave me comments if you want to about future videos that you might want to hear me talk about. I have a lot of street knowledge, I guess if you call it, being a senior citizen. I've been through quite a bit in my last 67 years, going on 68 years in October. So I'm going to address some of the important comments from the budget video. Now, you'll have to excuse me. I did have to make notes, okay? I didn't want to ramble on and get off topic and what, so occasionally I'm going to have to stop and kind of read my notes, but I did try to organize this video in such a fashion. Yeah, so like all your comments, I've learned from them, okay? There's been a few that I've read that were just a little bit sad. And I just want to let you know, what you're hearing from me is no BS, okay? I'm not lying to you about anything. I'm not inflating any figures. I'm just trying to put out there what I know and what I have to deal with in my budgeting situation in retirement. I see that I have inspired many of you that are within retirement reach, that, with proper planning and some pre-retirement financial discipline, that you can retire and possibly survive only on Social Security. Saving some of your savings for other things like fun vacations. Maybe you need to buy a new car. You may have a home repair item that needs to be taken care of, a new AC unit or something like that. It's always good to have that savings account to fall back on. Now, here's my disclaimer, okay? I am not a certified financial planner. I am just an everyday Joe. Everyday Ron is what I call myself. And I just live by common sense. You may need a CFP yourself or a good accountant to help you. I suggest that unless you are a financial wizard or a tax law expert, that you consider getting some help. I did not have any help before I retired. I had a 401k at my job, and it just kind of put money in there, and it kind of rolled along and got bigger and bigger. Same with my wife. She had a 401k in her job, and it did the same thing. But then all of a sudden we retired, and we realized, hey, wait a minute, we got to do something. We didn't know what to do. I did know this. I did know that I wanted to get my 401k away from my ex-employment, and so did my wife. So in our local town, there's some certified financial planners here. We went and visited one. The fee that they charge to do that is very comparable to the fees I was paying to keep my 401k going when I was working. So the amount that we're paying a certified financial planner is not any more expensive than we were paying our company plan administrator. And you do have one. If you've got a 401k, I am sure you've got a plan administrator that collects a fee from your 401k. It's real easy to figure that out. Just pull up your 401k statement and go look at it. You'll see they're either monthly fees or yearly fees or every quarterly fees. You'll see them in there. Go pay attention to that if you haven't done that before. I hadn't really paid attention to that all the years I was working until I got close to retirement. Then I started getting my statements from my 401k, looking at them. I said, hey, wait a minute. They're charging me to manage my money. Even though I'm working for that company, they had a company like John Hancock or Merrill Lynch or one of those. So yeah, you might want to check that out yourself. But hiring a certified financial planner probably is not going to cost you a whole lot more than what you were paying in the fees. And I can tell you from my experience with my certified financial planner, we went with him. I think we changed everything over about 3 or 4 months ago, and already, things are looking better in my IRA. We went from a 401k to an IRA. Our IRAs are looking better than what they did when I was working for the company. So things are growing in those accounts, which is good. I'm glad. And just to touch on the accountant part, I used to do my own taxes all the time. TurboTax, I've done them from years. Wasn't too complicated, wasn't too hard until last year. Last year, I worked full time. I made over the allowable limit. Okay, and believe me, they can tax. They did tax my wife's Social Security. I know that because I seen that when I did it in TurboTax. Now, supposedly, once because I made so much money, once she reaches full retirement age, which is in February, we're going to get that back. I don't know about all that. Okay, I just keep hearing that. I don't know how they're going to give it back to me. But anyways, if you are still working and your spouse is on Social Security and you make over the maximum allowed limits that they have, and I don't know what's going to happen after 2025, but I know last year I had to pay taxes on my wife's Social Security. So I'm going to get an accountant this year. I'm not going to do my own taxes because my wife took a very large distribution from her IRA to do some dental work. And I want to make sure that we get all that covered. And I've got some extra income off of my YouTube channel, my photography channel. It's not a lot, and I don't think it's going to affect me that much. But, I'm going to have to get an accountant to make sure that I get all the credits that I deserve. Okay. And I know there's a lot of tax laws changes this year going on, and I don't know what's going to be happening this year. Those laws may not take effect till 2026. I don't know. And in touching on the subject again about if you can retire, okay, on Social Security, I think having clear goals in your pre-retirement years is paramount. Do not wait. Do it now. Go through and set your goals up now. If you're wanting to travel, if you're that kind of person, make those plans. Figure out how much it's going to cost you to do that traveling. If you've got some other ideas, you want to move from one state to another, you want to get out of the cold weather, move to the warmer weather, you need to plan on that, okay? The selling of your home, the tax ramifications from that. So don't wait until you get so close to retirement to do your planning and set your goals. Do that early as you can. I suggest you sit down now. This is for pre-retirement people. This is not for people who have already retired. This is for pre-retirement people. These are the people that are 50, 55 years old in that age, and they're thinking about retiring at 65 or whatever. I would sit down now and write up your current budget, okay? See what you're spending now. Look at that. Determine what you're spending and how much of that you can maybe do away with when you actually retire, and take that off the list. Look at your income now. Look at how much you've got left over, from your income and your expenses now, how much each month you have left over. Is your checking account going up? Are you putting money in your savings account? You need to look at these things now before you get too far down the road. If I was you and I was setting up a budget, I would categorize it like I did on my budget video. You might want to go into a little more detail than what I did. And I'm on my next budgeting video I'm going to go into a little more detail. Like I said, that was my first one, and I was kind of green at it, but I'm learning from your comments. Your comments has given me inspiration to give more details in my budget. When you're doing your budget and you're looking at your budget, see what things you can cut out. Okay, find out if you can save a little more money by cutting some things out. It's just like us. We cut the cable at our house 2 years ago, way before we retired. We sat down and realized one day, hey, we're not really watching this TV crap, and the news that it was on there, it was just getting ridiculous, and we weren't even watching that. I mean, I mostly used the TV myself to watch weather because my job when I was working was related to weather, or the weather affected my job. Well, I found out that I could get that on the internet by just watching the local news channel streaming on my tablet. So I didn't really need cable TV. So we cut that out and saved about $60, $70 a month. I think it was about $80 a month in cable TV charges. We still had the internet, high-speed internet, but we didn't have the cable TV anymore. So that was one bill that we could reduce on. So I would start with that budget. It only takes an hour. Sit down with a pad of paper, write down all your expenses, look at your checking account. My checking account, I'm able to go in and set up tags for expenses. And what I do is I just go through my checking account with anything we spend, because all of our money goes either through our debit cards or in a check. And I can just go in there and tag it, if this is gasoline, these are groceries, and that's how I got my budget. I just used my checking account tagging feature. And then you can produce a report, just print it out. It was pretty easy for me. So take the time to do it. It only takes an hour. If I did it, you can did it. Yeah, if I did it, you can did it. If I did it, you can do it. And I'm a big procrastinator, okay? So yeah, I did it. So the next thing I'm going to address the comments from the video, from the budgeting video. And I'm just going to go right down the list. I picked about 10 or 12 of the ones I thought that were important, and I thought I would go ahead and answer them in this video, save you from going back and having to read all those comments that were in there. And I did read every single one of them, okay? There's over 200 and some comments, almost 300 comments in that video. And I do spend the time, and I do read the comments and try to answer everybody. So let's get into that, and let me show you that right now. So the first one we're going to address, okay, has to do with the cost of my insurance. So this guy here, Salami Slayer, said, your insurance guy is ripping you off. He was one of the first comments on this video. Any other quote should be $250. I said to him, you mean the auto and house insurance? And are you saying my car and house insurance should be $250 a month? Then living in Oklahoma City official said, unless you live in their state, how could you possibly know that? LOL. $250 a month for auto and home insurance would be a dream, apparently where she lives. And then Brad K 7653 said, told living in Oklahoma City official, homeowners and auto insurance costs do vary a lot based on where you live. This is very true. He lives in Ohio, and his rates have gone up 25% in the last 2 years. His insurance policy covers his primary house, his lake house, 2 vehicles, a motorcycle, speedboat, jet ski, pontoon, and other umbrella policy, and still only totals $3,600 per year. Boy, I'd like to live up there. And that's about $300 a month for him. Now, that is less than what I pay here in Tennessee. And the insurance rates in Tennessee may be different than Ohio. I don't know what governs insurance rates or how they're figured, but I do know that I went down and talked to my insurance agent about this. I did find out that what I was paying total for the year, and that was $4,800 for the cars, the 2 cars, and the house, and that runs up to about $400 a month in Tennessee. So in Ohio, apparently it's cheaper. He's got a lot more toys than I got, okay? I can't imagine what it would cost me to insurance all those toys down here in Tennessee. It might be twice that much. But I will tell you this, my insurance agent did tell me that they did have an increase last year. My policy was affected with that increase last year, and it was a 30% increase. And then he did also tell me that they did not anticipate any more increases for the next 5 years. Yeah, we'll see if that happens or not. So let's move on to the next subject I want to address, okay? The next subject I want to address is my property taxes, okay? I failed to mention my property taxes in the video, and the reason why is, to me, they were just a little bit insignificant. But we're gonna disclose those right now. And one of this guy here, Daniel 2155, said property tax. Now I had several comments like this. But what about property tax? You didn't include property tax. There were a lot of comments about that, and I answered each one individually the same way. Except here, I got the number wrong. I told him, I said, our property tax is $400 a year. It's actually more like $450 a year. I did not include it this time, but I will next on the next update. Thanks for the reminder. Might be a few other things that pop up too. Then April 7430 said $400 a year. Wow, ours is $4,500 a year. Congrats on that. And I told her, I said, yes, Tennessee is a very economical state to live in. And then John Dorian 473 answered April and said, that's how it goes. In my country, some cities have 10 times the property tax compared to other cities, even if it's in the same state within the same county. I guess it's up to the city officials how greedy they want to be. I will tell you this, we're going to cover my property taxes in just a little bit, the cost of those. But I will tell you this, that inside of our property tax, the school tax is included in that already. So this is true now. I pay $450 a year. So, that runs up to about $38 a month. I did not disclose that in the budget, but on the next budget, I will include a monthly allowance for my property taxes, just to go ahead and cover those. So what I want to address here while we're talking about property taxes is affordability, where you might live when you retire, okay? And let me show you real quick. I pulled up something. I asked Perplexity a question today, AI, and this is the answer it spit out. And I'm just going to let you see this for a minute, but Perplexity said, here are the top 10 most affordable states to move to after you retire as of 2025, based on current cost of living, taxes, housing, and general retiree-focused quality of life. They're talking about healthcare and other things. If you look at the list, 1 through 10, you got West Virginia, Mississippi, Arkansas, Delaware, Wyoming. Wyoming? I always thought it was high cost up there. Indiana, Missouri, Ohio, Nevada, Pennsylvania. But if you look at the bottom, a few honorable mentions that also frequently rank high for affordable retirement are Florida, especially smaller inland cities, and Texas with no state income tax, but be cautious about property taxes there. And Tennessee offers no state income tax and affordable housing. I live in the county, so our taxes are affordable here. If you lived in the city or in a bigger city like Nashville, Knoxville, Chattanooga, or Memphis, I'm sure that they've got some higher taxes also. It's a bigger city, bigger infrastructure. So the next comment I want to address is I had a person reach out to me, well, Salami Slayer again, okay. I'm a young viewer, I'm confused. I thought once you're 65, you get on Medicare and everything is free. No, it's not free, okay? I'm sorry. You do pay for that. Your Medicare Plan A is included. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. But your Medicare Part B, okay, it costs you, currently costs you $185 a month. Now, I did not disclose my income on this video, so I did not talk about gross versus net. Gross would be before the $185 was taken out, and net would be after the $185 was taken out. I deal with net. That's what's deposited into my checking account. Anyways, there is a book, and let me show it to you real quick. Let me get it. Actually, let me finish what I'm going to do right here. I'm telling him you may want to get a book from Medicare and read up. It's not all free. Medicare has two parts, Part A and Part B. Part A is hospitalization, and it is free. Part B is for doctor visits, testing, and all that kind of stuff. It costs me $185 a month, and they take it out of your Social Security check each month. Part B only pays 80% of what you're charged. I think that's the amount. And then that's why you got to get like a supplement plan to cover the other 20% of the Part B stuff. Brad K has commented on another one here. That is one of the problems. Too many people think that Medicare is free and don't plan for that expense in retirement. Once you're on Medicare, you should estimate $500 to $600 monthly in medical costs per person. This would include your Part B and D premiums, your supplemental or advantage policy, and out-of-pocket medical expenses. Brad's pretty spot on right there. $500 to $600 a month sounds about right to me. Often people will discover that pre-Medicare health expenses will be less than Medicare. We retired at 60 and 59. We are now on ACA plan, and I budget about $500 a month. That's $200 for each of them for our current ACA plan and out-of-pocket medical costs. I expect this to increase double when we hit 65 in about 2 years. He's probably right. He is below 65. When he turns 65, he will get on Medicare, and his $250 a month he's paying now will most likely go up slightly if he includes his Plan B premium, which is $185. So I'm not sure if his $500 to $600 a month includes the $185 Plan B or not. That's a little gray area right there on that comment. Okay, while we're on the subject of Medicare, I did mention to you that you wanted to get a Medicare book. And this is the book I'm talking about, Medicare and You. They make one out every year, 2025. I believe you can pick this up at your local Social Security office. You might be able to contact Social Security on ssa.gov.gov. There's some website information here. It tells you, I think it's ssa.gov is where you can find it. If you have not signed up for a login.gov account, I don't care what age you are, you need to do that, okay? Once you get signed up on a login.gov account with your information, you can access your Social Security information online. Yeah, so go to login.gov, get your Social Security statement. Maybe you can get one of these books. Every year, I think that you're on Social Security, they're going to mail you one anyways. I get one every year. I got one in 2025 because that was the first year I retired. So I had another comment about the cost of insurances, health insurance, and what have you. This one here is from TLR 1604. They said there is no B, which is around she's telling me I didn't disclose that there was a B insurance. I did not, which is around $200 a month. It's actually $185. She also said I didn't have any house taxes listed, which I've already addressed on that. And she says, I figure by the time my husband and I are on Medicare, A, B, D, and G will be about $500 each. That was what Brad said also in the previous comments. And I explained to her why I did not include it. It said, hi, I did not include the Plan B. The reason is I was working off my net Social Security amount, not gross. I did not divulge my Social Security payments in this video. The property taxes here in Tennessee for my 1.5 acres and my 1,600 square foot house are about $450 a year. And I went on to tell her that Tennessee is a very affordable state to live in. So then I had this comment right here from ZREX Rich 6118. He said, hello, Ron. I just stumbled across this video. I'm curious how much your pre-retirement monthly expenses were. I understand the medical expenses change once you retire, but did your food expense increase, decrease, or stay roughly the same? I assume fuel costs went down. Mine most certainly will. I commute 60 miles a day, 5 days a week. Bless your heart. I did 100 miles a day, 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. I've heard from others, I guess. I've only need 80% of my pre-retirement income, but I don't see where I'll be reducing my monthly expenses by 20% a month in retirement. I'm hoping to retire early, fingers crossed, in roughly 3 more years. And I said, hello, thanks for the great question. And it was a great question. I said, our food expense have not changed significantly. You still have to eat. The cost of food in general has risen over the last 6 months. If you've been going to the grocery store, you know this yourself. Have you seen the price of coffee lately? I was shocked. I was there last week and it's almost doubled. A container of Folgers coffee is like $17 now. And if you want the decaf, the green container, it's like $23. Makes you want to stop drinking it. Our fuel costs did go down. I was driving 100 miles a day round trip every day to work. I have a pickup truck that gets about 21 miles to the gallon at best on the highway. You would have to cut back on some other things to live on 80% of your current income. You are correct in your thinking that you will not reduce your expenses by 20% when you retire. Now we had a comment from another user, JD10 5TB. I probably retired in the worst year, but unfortunately, when I retired, my expenses went up about 60%. Some of that due to inflation, but a huge chunk because of medical insurance. Retired before Medicare. So if you retire before 65, if you retire at 55, you're responsible for your all your insurance. Okay, you can't get on Medicare until you're 65. I guess you can do ACA if it's still around, but I choose not to because I was doing Roth conversion, so I couldn't keep my income that low. But aside from all that, all the insurance went up like homeowners and long-term care. I imagine when you're older and do nothing but stay home, like in the late 70s or 80s, things might be cheaper, but other than gas. I don't see what's cheaper about being retired. I am a frugal person. It's totally worth it, but it has not been cheaper. Really make sure you want to quit before you do because most places don't like to hire retired people. You can get a job at Walmart, they'll hire retired people. Anyways, some good comments right there and some very specific financial problems between these two people. And I don't have either one of those problems, okay? I think I have vaguely heard about 80% of your current income to retire on. I don't know how true that is, okay? All I know is what I've done, and what I've done so far is working for me. And then we had another comment, okay? And this one here was from Leveraged Promised One. Basically, what I'm living on with a $3,100 pension alone until I draw Social Security at 66 and three quarters. I guess they're trying to get to full retirement age. Of course, I have to rob my IRA to accomplish this, but so far my IRA has grown to cover the distributions to have me whole. That's good, okay? So they're making enough in whatever it is, interest or whatever they got invested in, that is covering their withdrawals. This said, I know the IRA will not always go up. Credit card debt is zero. That's good every month. And the house is paid for. That's another good thing. Yet the HVAC just went out tonight. I could have chose Seattle, yet Texas has no state income tax. True, we just read about that. And now property taxes are minimized as a homestead and senior exemption for now at least. That's pretty cool. I don't know what she's talking about that. I may have missed something on the news nationally about homestead or senior exemption, but it may be a Texas thing. I don't know. And I said to her, I said to this person, I know of people like you that have a pension or a really large 401k and retire early at around 55 years old. Most are in the Affordable Care Act, ACA, insurance, Obamacare, and they are drawing from their 401k to live on. That is great if they can do that. If you recall, I said in my video, I started way too late in my contributions. That was my mistake. So I had to wait until I was 65 for full retirement. I waited until 66 and 6 months. I actually retired at 67 and 2 months. I actually worked until then. Before I started Social Security Medicare, I was covered under a great healthcare work until then. We also had a very large cash savings account as a buffer. When I retired, we had a very large cash savings account as a buffer. My wife had already retired a few years ago before me, so we was used to her income level on Social Security and not at the level she was when she was working. Just had to adjust for my reduction when I quit working. Have a great day and stay cool. Now I have calculated my difference between what I was earning at my job versus what I'm getting in Social Security, and the amount is about take home about $800 a month less than what I was bringing home when I was working. Okay. Now, in lieu of all that, there's been a lot of changes. First off, my medical insurance was covered by my employment. All that was covered by my employment. Now that's my responsibility. So we had a little more expenses there. We're saving a little bit of money because I'm not driving to work anymore. A little wear and tear on the vehicles, a little less fuel. I know my fuel cost was a little bit high in this budget, but I did address that in the budgeting video, why it was high this month. It's because I probably spent about $100 to $125 extra in fuel last month because I had to help my parents move in my pickup truck, and there were several trips across town and back to take boxes to their storage unit and what have you. So I did a lot of extra running around. I anticipate that my fuel cost is only about $200 a month. Okay. I'm the one that does all the driving in the family. My wife doesn't go very much. She goes to church and some other things, but she did go out of town back in June, but I don't think that was in my July budget. So there was a comment about my gas price tonight on a comment on there tonight called bullshit on me. And it wasn't bullshit. It's what I spent, but I had some extra running around that I had to do, and that's why it was high. Now, I had a really good question and one that I hadn't really thought about too much. Okay. And this came from the same person, another person that's commented, JD105TB said, one thing I've noticed that married people never seem to think about is how are they going to live off of the Social Security only when one spouse dies? Good question. They will no longer have two Social Security checks, and then they will most likely have to pay higher taxes because singles pay more taxes on much less income. Also, you keep saying you're trying not to touch your 401k money, which can be good, but sometimes not as you will have to take required minimum distributions on that in the future and most likely higher taxes on that money if you don't convert the money to a Roth. Just something to think about. I appreciate that comment, and here's my thoughts on that. My answer to her is this is a valid point, and I might use this in my next video. My wife has an IRA, and I have an IRA. My Social Security being twice as high as her Social Security means she would get my amount if I die. I think that's the way I read that. If your spouse dies, you get the higher of the two. So my Social Security being higher, she would get my Social Security and have to give hers up, which gives her a little more income, but she would be losing her income in this case. Vice versa. If she dies and I'm still living, I'll keep my Social Security, but I'll lose hers. So, her Social Security will be a deficit to that. And hopefully the one that's left standing could downsize a little bit for their living arrangements. They'd only need one vehicle. They wouldn't need two vehicles. They wouldn't be paying as much on car insurance with just one vehicle. Their house might be smaller. They might even choose to rent. Okay, at that point, when you get to a certain age, so you don't have to take care of anything. So I kind of outlined that in my answer here. You could sell a lot of stuff for cash, cancel the insurance for some of the savings. Groceries should be a lot less. Possible utilities could be less in a small place that is newer and more efficient. But you're correct. Many do not think about this. JJGN7EI said, Sir, in my humble opinion, you guys are doing awesome. Your 401k at RMD time will replace all of those incomes as needed. Your biggest risk, in his opinion, is a health crisis. True. So that what's your plan for that? It can potentially wipe out all that you worked so hard for. My husband and I will be in the same place, and we are retired military. I have no plans to cash out until RMD. Then I'll throw my forced distributions into my Roth for our kids and their eventual inheritance. I'm not worried about my kids. I'm not worried about their inheritance. They make more money than I make. Okay, they don't need my inheritance. Okay, I come from a different time. A lot of people back in the old days, they had to leave their family, their kids, and all this money and what have you, and all their stuff, all their property. Look, man, when you're dead, you're dead. You ain't gonna know what's gonna happen to all that. But the point is this: if you are left without one of your Social Security incomes, there's other ways to compensate for that. I feel like if my wife died or I died, that both of us could still survive. Okay. First off, my IRA would become hers. Okay, she would get all that money in her IRA, so she could take bigger distributions from her IRA account. Bob Drawboff, I know Bob, or I know of Bob. He's around the channel quite a bit. For most people, a Roth conversion is a mistake. I run the numbers several different ways. Unless you have millions of dollars in retirement accounts, it's not worth it in the long run. He has a point. If you're going to convert to a Roth, okay, from a regular 401k, or I guess it's IRA, but if you're going to convert to a Roth, you should do that while you're working early on. That way you don't take a great big hit when you're about 60 years old and you try to do the conversion. I looked at doing the conversion, and what that really means to the people on here is that you're doing the conversions and you're paying the taxes now, so you don't have to pay them at the distribution time. And I looked at that and it wasn't going to be worth it for me, not at 60 years old or 62 years old. If I had done it when I was 40, I would have had 20 some years to make up for it. Okay. But it is a hit. It is a tax hit on there. So while we're on the subject of one spouse dying in Medicare, I want to give everybody their fair share of the comments. So Ruth Ann LaMentia 5568 said, what about if a spouse dies, you lose one of the Social Security payments? It's amazing how many people are thinking alike watching this video. Thank you, Ruth, for that comment. Ruth said, I said to Ruth, so my wife's Social Security is about half as mine. If she dies, I just stay on mine. There would be plenty of 401k money from both accounts to pick up the slack. If I die, she will convert to my Social Security amount. I think I'm right about that. I haven't read about that exactly, but I think that's what I understand, that she would get my Social Security check since it's higher, or my Social Security amount. The situation would be about the same for whoever's left. They should be able to pick up the slack using 401k money. Longevity is not taken into consideration here since we don't know when we will die. Great question, and thanks for that. So there you go. I answered that question pretty quick. And listen, leave me a comment if you got something to say about that. I'm reading those comments and trying to answer them, and I want to help you. So let's go on to the next comment, the next subject matter. And this one here came from somebody named Jeffrey. I'm sorry for the size of this, but I tried to get all the comments in here. Jeffrey said, I had an old guy I worked with give me the best advice when I was 24 years old. He told me to save 10% of my gross pay into S&P 500 and don't touch it. I would be able to retire early. I'm almost 55 now, and I'm so glad I listened. I plan to hang up the cleats in less than 3 years. Congratulations. He's going to retire at 58. I actually gave the same advice to my children, and my oldest started doing this at age 21. Slow and steady wins the race. Jeffrey is so correct about that. I said, good for you. Have you decided what you're going to do for health insurance when you do retire, since you will be under 65? Just curious to what your thoughts are for insurance after you retire. And then said A2027 said, same for me. Someone told me to start saving 10% of my 401k at my first job out of college. Best thing I could have ever done. I am 60 years old and looking to retire at 65. I could retire now, but will continue to sock it away. Good for you. And then Jeffrey did answer me. He said, I should be able to use ACA, Affordable Care Act, as long as I can keep my taxable income under $6,500 a month. But if not, I'll buy a private insurance policy. So he answered that question for me. And I don't know what this one means. The only way went. Okay. Anyways, I had one final comment on that from Debbie. I had an excellent advice from my brother-in-law who gave good advice back when I was 17 years old. And I took his advice. And at that point, even though I was a teenager, I did listen. There you go. A teenager that listened. I wish I would have listened. I wish somebody would have took me by the shoulders and shook me. Okay. We decided to retire at the age of 60 years old, and we gave our kids the advice when they were teenagers. We became debt-free at the age of 45 years old. Congratulations. We also invested and saved money and always worked hard. Our kids are debt-free and work full-time, so they can pass the advice to their children. We also live off of Social Security, save a retirement, etc. I always mention spend less, save more. Good advice, Debbie. Thanks for the comment. That was a really good comment. So the next series of comments kind of wasn't really directed at me, but I thought it was pertinent to read this. So this commenter here said, I am 45, just shared clips of your last words on Instagram from my friends. Thank you for the wisdom, Ron. I told her, awesome, thank you. Michael said, I just don't know if I'm doing the retirement thing right. I keep hearing horror stories about people outliving their money between inflation, healthcare costs, and the uncertainty with Social Security. I feel like my savings might not stretch far enough. Well, Michael, it depends on your savings. Okay, I don't know how much you've got saved up, and that's a personal choice. But you need a significant amount of money saved up or in a 401k account so you can supplement your Social Security if you need to. The best thing to do is to reduce your expenses down as low as you can get them, and hopefully you can live on mostly Social Security, and use your 401k distributions to have fun with. John says, you're not alone. A lot of retirees feel exactly the same way. It's overwhelming trying to figure out how much you can safely spend every month without running out. Well, John, I suggest you sit down and get you a budget and figure that out. That's what I did. I was scared too. When I retired, I was scared. I didn't know what I was going to do. So, it's okay. I've been retired for almost 7, going on 8 months, and it's okay. It's going to be okay. Albert said, the truth is retirement planning isn't just about saving. It's about knowing how to spend. True. Having a clear monthly budget and income strategy can make the difference between living in fear and actually enjoying retirement. Boy, that's a spot on comment right there. Okay. I agree with that 100%. A lot of experts suggest starting with a detailed monthly spending plan. That's kind of what I said in the beginning of this video. Sit down and write your budget out. That way you can see exactly where your money is going, and whenever it aligns with your savings and income streams. Okay, so that's true, very true. You got a budget, you can see where your money's going. And don't forget about rebalancing your investments to match your retirement stage. If your portfolio is too aggressive, it could throw your income plan off. This is a very good point right here. When you're contributing to your 401k, you get to choose your investment strategies, how risky you want to be, how aggressive you want to be. You get to choose all that. In my 401k, I was fortunate enough that they had they figured that all out for you. So they had these target funds. They called them target funds, and you pick the year that you plan to retire. So like my target fund was Target Fund 2025. And it starts out, depending on how old you are, it starts out kind of aggressive in the beginning. Let's say I started at 40 years old. Then the investment is aggressive, and it's a high risk. And you can afford to take those risks at a younger age. But as you get a little older, it gets a little less risky. So by the time you get close to retirement age, it's basically low risk, very low risk, because you don't want to be taking risk with your investments when you're in either retired or at a retirement age, unless you got millions and millions and millions of dollars to play with. Okay, then you can afford to do what you want to do. But the everyday Joe like me, like Ron's an everyday Joe. Okay, I picked that strategy for my 401k, and it worked out very well for me. And then the original commenter said maybe that's a good video for Ron to do. I could told you in the beginning of the video, I am not a certified financial planner. I'm just a common sense guy, and I'm just telling you what I know and trying to help you to decide or open your eyes to what you need to do to get close to retirement. Now, some of the other comments had to do with my bills, okay? And this one here, I want to read this one to you. Diamond Blue said, good stuff. The internet cost irks me. Okay, my internet cost is $135 a month, but I got very high speed. I got unlimited streaming. We stream on our tablets. That's for our entertainment. We don't have cable TV. I told you that in the beginning. We don't have any cable TV. So I got one of their modems because I had my own modem and I was having some compatibility issues with it. And I decided to get rid of my modem and just go with Comcast modem. So I pay about $10 a month for that extra. But my cable bill is about my internet bill, I said cable, I don't have cable. My high-speed internet bill is about $110 a month plus the equipment charge and plus taxes, okay? I think it comes up to about $135 a month. I said, yes, my internet bill is kind of high, but I do have the best speed they offer, and we have unlimited. I could save money by dropping back a tier or two, but the only entertainment we have is our tablets that we stream movies and YouTube on. I have 2 YouTube channels, so I like the convenience of the high speed that it brings me for uploading videos and what have you. And then Diamond Blue said, yes, unfortunately, it is a necessary expense today. Wasn't singling your bill out, just meant in general. My cable internet bill is $232 per month, and it's just okay. My parents had Spectrum at their condo. They were paying $235 a month, and they had cable TV. I tested the internet speeds on the cable company's website, and is nowhere near the speeds I'm paying for. I bought a Roku to test out, and it works great. We'll end up canceling the cable and just keep the internet. Keep up the good work. Enjoyed the video. Thank you. Yeah, that's the thing right there. Make sure you're getting the speed on your internet that you're paying for. Okay, and you can do speed checks on there. Whatever cable provider you have or whatever you're using, they have things on their website that tell you how to check for speed. You may have a hardware problem in your home. You may have a cable problem coming off the pole to your house. You may have a cable problem inside the house. I'll tell you what, I was having a little trouble with my other computer that sits on that desk over there sometimes, and I was trying to do live streams from it, and I was dropping frames. You could see my picture flickering. Come to find out, the Ethernet cable, the Cat5 cable that goes from there back to my modem, had a bad connector on the end of it. I had to clip it off and reconnect it. And then we had the grocery bill. Okay, we had a comment. I've had several comments on that. This one here, Timex Ironman 1. By the way, I've got a Timex Ironman watch. I think the groceries sound low. Actually, I consider the groceries kind of high. My grocery bill, my budget was $865, which included paper goods and some other things, not just food. But it does include a lot of extras like paper goods, cleaning supplies, and what have you, more than just food. So even at $865, that is about right, because I figured about $150 a week for the two of us on groceries alone. So for the two of us, our grocery only bill is about $150 a week. So let's look at that a second, okay? I just happened to save my grocery receipt. We went grocery shopping yesterday, and we got all these items. Let me show you. We got all these items right here. Okay, there's chicken breast. I'm looking at the big items. Chicken breast for $10.39, and what's that right there? Oh, look at that. Folgers coffee, $15.86, right at the bottom. Okay, so as you can see, let me pull back a little bit so you can see if you can see that a little bit better. As you can see, we bought a lot of items, but nothing that was really expensive, okay? Some tomatoes and zucchinis and cabbage and what have you. And there's a few items in there that are not eatable, things like deodorant, okay? Anyways, our total grocery bill last week was $145.86. That's typical. It's pretty typical. Sometimes it's a little less than that, but it's usually under $150. And here was my grocery list, okay? It was pretty much all that stuff. It doesn't look like very much stuff on there, but the coffee was kind of expensive. Coffee mate. We had 2 coffee mates, one for her, one for me. That usually lasts for about 2 weeks. So that was my grocery bill. So I just wanted to show you that, okay? That's the real deal right there. So we'll move on to the next comment, and this one is from, excuse me, Jeffrey Sawyer 9898. New subscriber, thank you very much for being a subscriber. Why are you not spending down your IRA? When I finally quit working in a few years, I will stop contributing, just part-time work now. If you save for 50 years or so, why would you not spend your IRA for at least fun things like travel? Please don't take it as criticism, just wondering. Thanks for the great question. I'm going to start spending down my IRA in January 2026. The reason I'm waiting is my wife took a big distribution from her IRA this year, and I was waiting to see what the tax ramifications of that would be. That's something we don't know. She took quite a big chunk of money out of her IRA to have her dental implants put in. And that's another thing too, Jeffrey. I have not contributed to my IRA for 50 years. I've only contributed to my IRA for about maybe 20 years, okay? I started late. I've said that several times in the video in my budgeting video, that I didn't get a soon enough start on contributing. And he thanked me for my response to him. I try to respond to everybody. So I am going to start taking some distributions from my IRA in 2026. I'm not too sure how much that's going to be. When I get to that part of my life, and I want to be transparent with y'all, I will come on here and I'll do a video, And when I get to the tax year, I'm going to come on and do a video about that to let you know what my tax ramifications were for that big distribution and stuff. Okay, I don't have a problem, of you people knowing what's going on. Another great comment, another expenses that some of you may have when you're budgeting that I don't have. And Lewis 2122 said, I have no debts except condo fees and property taxes and income taxes, which I hate all of them. I'm sorry for that. What I did say to him is condo fees, HOA fees, and property taxes and state income tax can add up. I did not cover those in my video since they didn't directly affect me. Our property tax in Tennessee is low. For a 1,600 square foot house, 1.5 acres with a garden shed and a carport, a 900 square foot basement, I pay about $450 a year for property tax. So definitely, if you're living in a condo situation or an apartment complex situation, or even in a housing community, make sure you take into account those HOA fees. They can add up. Property taxes, condo fees, and any state income tax. Many states do have a state income tax. And this next comment, it totally went past me, okay? I was like, wait a minute. We're really getting down to the nitty gritty here, okay? This lady here said, we aren't on Social Security for another 10 plus years and expect to be done with pets by then. But be sure to add the cost of any pets you have. I have two pitties. One is almost 7, the other's 3, and they're very expensive pound puppies. We put aside or spend about $525 a month. Food, daily and monthly meds, annual dental, monthly nails, annual visits for shots, checkups, random ER visits because they can stop putting things in their mouth or playing with the neighborhood possums and skunks. I think raising our kids was cheaper. I agree. I went, wow, pet care. I never thought of that. I'll mention that in my next video. Good call. A lot of seniors have pets, okay? They replace it's their company. They don't have kids. They don't have grandkids around or whatever. So they do have a dog or something like that, or maybe cats. So you have to include pet care. We have a cat. It's a barn cat. She doesn't go to the vet. She gets fed. We feed her. Okay, and her food is minimal expense to us, but she stays outdoors. She's not an indoor cat. And on this next comment, we have Gigi, sensible and realistic budget based on good pre-retirement goals. I thought retiring debt-free would be the norm, but I was mistaken. Thanks. Yes, in my humble opinion, being debt-free is key if you're going to survive on Social Security and some savings alone. Otherwise, if you're going to buy toys, motorhomes, vacations, and you need to have something more substantial than Social Security to fall back on, like a huge 401k or IRA account. I don't think you need millions in those accounts if you're just a conservative Joe that is trying to get through comfortably without having an extravagant senior lifestyle. I am an average Joe, okay? If your taste for toys, motorhomes, and that kind of stuff is more expensive, then you need to have more money, okay? My budgeting was geared around just the average person that's trying to get to retirement. We're all baby boomers. I was born in 1957. Here we go, okay? Here's the baby boomers now. And another good comment from my friend Bob. All good points, Ron. I would encourage you to spend some of my 401k. I'm liking his thinking, okay? It actually has gotten me to think. This comment did. Take a trip or something you have the two of you, me and my wife, have been wanting to do. He's been retired for 4 years. We took several trips, purchased an RV. Our retirement balance is within $9,000 of our starting balances when we retired. Good for you. It was hard to go from saver to a spender. Someone told me there would be a U-Haul behind you on the way to the graveyard, so we're not taking it with us. That's a pretty good way of putting it, okay? George said, I've been stressing over my retirement plan for months. With prices rising and my fixed income barely covering the basics, I finally sat down and looked at my numbers. Turns out I'm spending about $4,200 a month, and that's with zero luxuries. How are we supposed to make retirement work like this? Well, George, I'm kind of the same way. I'm about the same amount of money that you're making. So Albert said that's the reality for a lot of us. Between housing, healthcare, and just day-to-day expenses, retirement planning is more overwhelming than ever. This is very true. And then Sebastian said it's so easy to feel behind. It's so easy to probably fall behind is what he meant. People talk about needing $1 million or more to retire comfortably. What if you're nowhere near that? No one teaches you how to adjust your budget or build a plan that actually works. That's why you may want to get a certified financial planner way before you retire. Don't wait till you retire. I didn't have one because my 401k was with the company I worked for, and they had a guy that would come visit us once a year, and I could pick up the phone and call him anytime I wanted to talk to advice. In fact, 2 years before I retired, him and I sat down and we talked about my retirement, and he come up with a plan. Okay. And I didn't go with his plan, but his plan was very good, and I could have retired very comfortably with his plan. Roger said the truth is not just about saving more, it's about being smart with what you have. Yes. Strategic budgeting and the right retirement structure can stretch your dollars a lot further than you think. And I agree with Roger, okay? I spent a lot of time thinking about my budget and thinking about my income. And I think if I start taking my distributions in January 2026, then I'll have just that much more buffer. If you remember in my budgeting video when I was talking about my expenses, my truck payment's going to go away in December. I paid for a camping site, which was $231. That was probably, that's not going to be every month. There's going to be some reduction in that. And the budget showed that I was $258 in the hole, but not really. If I wait till December, I wouldn't be that way. We have enough savings account to handle that negative $258 every month for a while. And then the last comment, which just came in a day or two ago, and I really got tickled by reading it. Larry said, I'm 72, widowed male, been retired 12 years. Looking at your budget, you are not frugal. My monthly income is $4,200, about the same as yours. And after bills and budget, I put away $1,400 a month. But honestly, a lot of that has to do with the fact that my wife died over a year ago, and it's much cheaper for a single person to live in. And that's what I was going to say. Larry, I'm very sorry to hear of your wife's passing. I cannot imagine the pain you've gone through. And bless you. I might could do better with my budget, but I don't consider myself an excessive spender. Thanks for the comment and take care, Ron. So he does make a valid point there. He puts away about $1,400 a month, but a lot of that is, his wife is no longer living, so he has less to spend on that other person. So it could make up for that. I think if I didn't have my spouse or my spouse didn't have me, we might be able to put more money away than what we do now, okay? So this is pretty much the end of the video. I want to just kind of touch on this stuff. There was a lot of good comments in the budget video, and I wanted to go through some of those and acknowledge the people who did those. I really appreciate the community that I'm building here. I'm really grateful for everybody that has subscribed to the channel. I hope to bring you more comment like this, similar to this, and I will in the future. As we get towards the end of the year, I'll be doing another budgeting video and revisiting this one to see how we're doing after 12 months of retirement instead of 6 months retirement. If you go to the channel and look around a little bit, there's some playlists on there. I did have some pre-retirement videos I did last year. I will put a link to the playlist in the description of this video that I'm posting now. If you want to go watch some of those videos, there's a lot of common sense retirement videos that I did. I also have kind of a humorous side over there, and I'll put a link to that playlist about my parents. I have two 87-year-old parents that I've been looking after. They're getting ready to move onto my property into a mobile home. We're getting ready to finalize all that and get them closer to us so we can look after them a little bit more. So you might want to go check out some of those. There's a few comical ones about those too, especially one about my 87-year-old stepdad and his crony buddies putting in their own septic tank. So we're going to end it right there. Otherwise, I'm going to cut this video off. Thank you for coming and viewing it today. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for being part of the community, okay? Make sure you check out the channel. There's a lot of good information on the channel, and maybe you'll find something useful on there. My name is Ron. You guys are my friends. Thanks for being here, and we'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.